your name? Don't you play this game? You from another land, got you like it's contraband. Tell me what's your name? Don't you play this game? You from another land, got you like it's contraband.
What's up, guys? Keyshawn Uchiha here, back at you with another part 2 of Ultimate Universe. Now, this is going to be part 2 of What If Deku was Dracula from Castlevania. Now, I promised that I was going to give y'all a video on Wednesday, but kind of was busy, had to do some stuff. So, I'm doing a video right now, quite early in the morning. I'm a little bit tired, but bear with me. I will be putting in some 18 spicy parts, and pretty much this is going to be you could say a spicy video of a part 2, but I have been looking into the comments, and pretty much one of y'all subscribers was asking me to put Toga into the scene, or have Toga join with Deku. I was going to do that, but I just wanted to save it for a special part, and well, the special part is part 2, so pretty much let's just get this started. So where did we last left off? We last left off with Deku pretty much as a kid. Well, we're just gonna leave a short recap. Pretty much we left off with pretty much Deku going around the world, meeting up with new vampires, meeting up with people who is werewolves, also meeting with a country boy. You could say a country boy, hillbilly. You could say kind of a hillbilly. Has a quirk that he can reverse time back to a certain moment, which pretty much Deku helped him out by turning him into a vampire, but also gaining the power to do the same thing that he does for his own benefit, you could say. But also, we have him went to churches donating money and stuff for the church to help out orphans and stuff, which he's getting the church on his hand by favor. So pretty much the church doesn't know that Deku is, well, you could say they don't know Deku is actually a vampire. Well, Dracula, you could say. But pretty much that has happened. Also, he has also went to the Hero Exam, if I'm correct. Yeah, he has also went to the Hero Exam, passed everything with a single flash, and also destroyed the Zone Planet robot, which Encounter rescued Uraraka, pretty much rescuing Uraraka, healing her wounds, and pretty much just getting out of there. This is where we left off at the last part of him pretty much getting the invitation that he has passed and also beat All Might School. So that's pretty much it, the recap. So let's get started with the new stuff. Pretty much we start off with... Oh, my bad. Sorry about that, guys. But let's continue. Pretty much we start off with Deku... Shit, I forgot. I'm sorry. We start off with Deku. Pretty much is in his castle right now, and he's pretty much just there, sitting there and thinking and saying, "Ah, what do I have to do next?" Which Deku's thinking. This is where pretty much one of his skeletons, which one of his skeletons is the top-notch guard that protects him, is pretty much. Ugh. Sorry, I'm gonna be yawning a lot, guys. My bad. But pretty much, this is where Deku guards, and we're just gonna call it the flying skeleton, because the skeleton has a cape and he can fly and kick. But pretty much, this is where the flying skeleton comes, and he pretty much says, "Lord Deku," which this is where Deku is pretty much sitting at his throne, and he has another throne where he pretty much has he's pretty much just sitting at his throne, sitting there with his legs crossed and just thinking. And this is where one of the flying skeletons, pretty much, well, the flying skeleton, one of his top knots, comes to him and pretty much explain to him that maybe he should go outside, go do something. I don't know. Before school starts, before his big day starts, which he pretty much agrees. I pretty much um takes the takes one of his guards with him because they have his loyal subjects and monsters has been telling him that he needs protection. So pretty much that Deku takes two of the monsters with him, and he takes uh let's see, Blazing Skeleton and I guess we can say a skeleton. Actually, not a skeleton. A whip skeleton. But I rather call it the Belmont skeleton because it's pretty much just a skeleton with a whip and it does Belmont. But yeah, we're gonna call it a whip skeleton. That's originally the name, but um, pretty much he has both of them. This is where he gives them a power boost, and pretty much have them have the ability to turn into human form. Human form and also back into skeleton to have their true power. So their true power is the skeleton form, while the other power is human form, which they still have strong. They're other humans, you could say. But this is where they go with Deku, and this is where Deku is pretty much just going around, and he's just looking at the scenery and stuff, and looking at things that he haven't tried. And the skeletons are just pretty much with him just to protect him and stuff. This is where pretty much they're saying, "Oh, look at this, Lord," which this is where Deku picks it up, and this is where a merchant lady pretty much says, "Oh, you are interested into something," which pretty much Deku's at the parts where people sell merchants and stuff. He's at that area, which Deku starts looking. This is where he pretty much get something for his mom and pretty much just goes off. As he's pretty much going, this is where he heads to a cafe, and this is where he meets Toga. Toga before she joined the hero. I mean the villain, the League of Villains. This is where pretty much he's at the cafe. He's pretty much just waiting for a service, and this is where he meets um his classmate, one of his classmates, Toga, which I'm gonna say she was a part of the class, and he pretty much um says, "Hey, I know you. You're Toga, right?" Which pretty much she does a little blush because she does have a little liking to Deku, and well, she has a liking to Deku, you could say. And she says, "You remember me?" Which Deku says, "Of course. How can I forget a face like that? Who stares at me?" Which pretty much she starts blushing. This is where Deku pretty much have a conversation with her and stuff, and he makes his order, and he pretty much waits for his order. Um, this is where pretty much Deku asks her is to take a seat with her, and pretty much so he can get to talk to her. This is where she says she's kind of busy with work, serving people now, and all that. Which pretty much this is where Deku says, "Oh, it's fine, don't worry. I'll make sure you won't get fired if you still want this job or not." Which she says, "What do you mean by that?" Which he pretty much tells her to sit. This is where he's talking to her stuff, and this is where one of the other people was just gonna say a businessman, a hole who pretty much runs has like light special, pretty much says, where's my service here? I'm pretty much want some food and stuff, which pretty much this is where Toga's about to say right this way and about to get it until Deku just stops her and says, "No, I got this." Which pretty much this is where Deku summons a maid, summons like cute succubus maids, like cute succubus maids, and they pretty much says, "Is there anything we can do for you, Lord Deku?" Which pretty much Deku says, "Serve these people around the store while I talk with her." Which pretty much the succubus sees that it's a girl, which one of them says, "Oh, are you on your special date, Lord?" With a girl, which pretty much Deku is blushing a little bit because, like I said, he still got those harmful emotions and stuff. And he pretty much blushes and looks away and says, "No, we're just talking, okay?" And pretty much Toga laughs a little bit, but pretty much this is where the succubus starts serving customers and stuff, and the store is like getting a 5-star rating and stuff because the succubus has the power to pretty much arouse anyone. It doesn't matter if they male or female. So anyone can get some of that piece of cake. Doesn't matter. They don't judge. You could say. So pretty much this is where what did I say? Yeah, this is where pretty much Deku was talking to Toga, getting to know her a little bit more. And pretty much she explains that her quirk is, more like looked down upon as a villain quirk, and she doesn't really live with anyone. She lives by herself. And she explained she doesn't really tell why she lives by herself, but it's been hard for her because she doesn't really like she says it's a little bit hard for her because she doesn't really have money and she's struggling a little bit. This is where Deku pretty much thinks about it, and he pretty much asks her the question, "Would you like to pretty much stay at my castle?" Which, well, do you want to pretty much live with me? He asks, which she pretty much is, well, blushing. Which Deku pretty much says, "Oh, not like that. Like you can, live." With me, you don't have to worry about that. You can still work and all that stuff and do what you want or see what you want to see and stuff. Or, Deku's just talk a little extra, but this is where pretty much she um thanks thanks him for his offer, and pretty much Deku gives her a certain little, well, pretty much just wherever she like ready to come to the castle, well, come to his place, just rip that paper, which she says okay. And this is where Deku pretty much gets up and go. Now we're gonna see Toga later on, but pretty much yeah. Let's continue. Now, this is where Deku pretty much heads back, and we're just going. Yeah, this is where Deku pretty much heads back, and this is where he starts pretty much heading to the store to get some stuff for his mom, and he pretty much heads back to the castle. Before he heads back to the castle, this is where he meets the villain. Yeah, the meets All For One, pretty much on his way by. This is where All For One um pretty much sees Deku, and he's pretty much going up to him. Well, yeah, he's pretty much going up to him, and this is where he's like looking into skies, and this is where Deku can sense evil presence off of him, and he pretty much says, "Can I help you?" Which this is where All For One asking for him to join him, you know, and he can grant him power and stuff. Which this is where Deku just pretty much makes a smirk and pretty much just walks away saying, "No, thank you, I'm good." Which this is where All For One's about to try to do something, try to take his quirk until Deku just pretty much smacks him away, sending him flying, and tells him to, "Don't you ever try to touch me again." Well, no, Deku doesn't smack him. One of the skeletons, the Blaze skeletons, does a front flip and pretty much kicks, kicks All For One, yeah, All For One in the face, sending him flying back a couple of meters. And which pretty much the Blaze skeleton, he pretty much says, "Don't you ever touch my master again. Don't try to touch my master." Which pretty much, this is where Deku tells them to stop, and they pretty much goes off. Now, this will kind of trigger of event to have All For One to go after Deku now after that whole that humiliation. So that's gonna kind of be different. But let's continue. The next day, pretty much, well, before the next day, later at night in the castle, this is where Toga gets transported to the castle up in the sky, which she's pretty much confused and all that stuff. This is where Deku pretty much comes in and pretty much says, "Welcome, I'm glad that you make it. So you decided to stay here?" Which pretty much she's, shocked and saying, "Where is she?" Which pretty much this is where Deku says, "This is my castle, my home." Which pretty much he shows her around. This is where he pretty much shows his studies and stuff and all that stuff. And he's showing her the corridors in many different areas. This is where as Deku showing her around, this is where the monsters and servants is looking, like peeking and looking, and pretty much looking and showing showing that like saying, so is this the new master's girlfriend or lady, or is it his soon to be wife? Which pretty much the monsters has been talking and saying that the Lord Deku do need a wife and stuff, or a mistress, you could say, which they had, and they're pretty much excited about this. This is where Deku pretty much shows her a specific area that he likes to be relaxing by, and he shows her the Sky Castle part. Well, the Sky Castle, you could say, or the Castle Tower. Well, we're just gonna call it the Castle Tower, but yeah, pretty much this is the Sky, the Sky Tower, you could say, part area of the castle, and it's it looks how can I put it? It looks beautiful. Pretty much the sky is like light and beautiful, and it's in a different plane of existence. So the castle is kind of in reality, a plane of existence, and non-reality. So that's why the areas all look different. It has it all different aspects. So this is where Deku shows her the sky tower, and pretty much it looks all beautiful, and the sky is all beautiful and stuff, and she says, "Wow, what is this place?" Which he pretty much says, "This the Sky Tower. This is where I pretty much relax to think and stuff, and to see what I want to do next." And pretty much she's looking around. She's looking at the flowers and stuff. Because the Sky Tower has a garden place, well, a garden area place where you can sit, relax, and all that stuff. This is where he's pretty much showing her the area and pretty much relax, showing her the uniqueness and stuff. And this is where she picks up a rose, and as she picks up the rose, she says, "What rose is this?" And he says, "Oh, it's a blood rose." But he says, "Be careful of touching it. It takes blood from you by cutting you," which pretty much she gets cut by it, and this is where she has a cut on her finger. This is where Deku picks it up and kisses it, which pretty much she blushes while Deku says, "Oh, I didn't mean to do that," which pretty much she says, "Thank you." Which this is where Deku begins to blush too. Which this is where his succubus, one of his succubus or general succubus is watching, and she says, "Oh, love, such young love," which um the flying skeleton is also there saying, "You see, back in my day, I used to have all the women with my unique skill," which pretty much the succubus looks at him and says, "You never got a girl in your life," which pretty much he says, "What are you talking about? I'm quite popular with the ladies, you know." which he, which he's saying that he's the shit with the cape. Basically, he's saying he's the shit with the cape, but pretty much they're just having an argument. This is where the boomerang skeleton is pretty much just chilling, just pretty much sitting, like yes, chilling, like chilling at the wall, saying, "Let's just hope, let's just hope that this can be good, and none of the mistakes will happen like our last master." Which pretty much, the boomerang skeleton regularly when the castle restarts again, no monsters have no memory. They know is there's only one master and stuff, but there's is some specific monsters who remember the old master Dracula. But since this is a new lord, the boomer skeleton knows about this, so he knows he knows pretty much information he's not supposed to know. But pretty much he's saying, let's just hope the mistakes don't happen like the last time. In his head, he's not saying it outside. But this is where pretty much Deku sits with her, talks, and pretty much he um, asks her which room she wants to stay in, and she pretty much says that uh, any room is fine. This is where the kids that not that Deku turned into little vampires. They're pretty much running to Deku saying, Big brother Deku," which pretty much Deku saying, "Ah, hey, which, you know, pretty much he's patting their head and stuff. Which is this is where one of the kids, which is the little girl, pretty much she's saying, "Oh, Deku, is this your girlfriend?" Which pretty much they're all saying he got a girlfriend. Wow, which they're all excited and stuff. Which pretty much Deku is then again saying she's not my girlfriend, guys. Like calm down. Which pretty much she's smiling, which Deku is happy about. Now, let's get to the next day. The next day, Deku pretty much gets up and he's pretty much put on his uniform and stuff, and he begins to start heading to school. This is where, as he's about to head to school, this is where um one of his monsters, the siren, begins to says that you're ready to go. Well, actually, no. This is where one of his rides, his carriage, and this carriage is pretty much a carriage that can fly and also can ride on ground. Pretty much saying, "Are you ready to go?" And the person who's driving it is pretty much this the skeleton butler, but he can hide his disguise and stuff. Well, a ghost butler who carriage that can pretty much is pretty much a ghost. You could say a ghost carriage thing. Yeah. But pretty much he hops inside and pretty much this is where he says he'd be back and he pretty much go. This is where we switch to Toga and Toga pretty much wakes up and he leaves her a note saying that um, his maids and stuff can basically show her around wherever she needs and stuff. Um, it's all there. Or if she just wants to leave the castle to do something, this this asks for to leave the castle, which pretty much yeah you could say. So she pretty much gets up and do her thing and pretty much goes to her job for now. Yeah, for now. But pretty much let's switch back to Deku. Now, this is where Deku heads to his first day into UA, and he pretty much heads into the class, and he pretty much automatically see Bakugou and Idon. Well, not Idon, Toroki. Toroki? Is it Toroki or Shigeroki? No, I think it's. I don't know. I'll just say guy with glasses, just for now, because I really need to work on the name, remembering of the guy name, saying it right. But pretty much, we all know him fighting with each other. This is where Deku doesn't even mind them. He just lets them fight, and he pretty much sits down in his seat. And pretty much just, and he takes a seat by the window, and he begins to just look at the window and just, you know, does his own thing. Which pretty much, after one of them was yelling at each other, this is where the other one looks and realizes that Deku's here because he's so quiet with it. They say, "Oh shit, he's here," which pretty much Bakugou says, "What?" And he's like, "What? When did he get here?" Which Deku is pretty much saying, a couple of minutes ago, but y'all was just fighting, so y'all was just having a good play fight, so I just let y'all have y'all fight. Which Bakugou gets pissed off by it, but pretty much the other one, he laughs about it, saying, "Yeah, I guess we are having a little childish fight." Which Bakugou gets even more mad because he's admitting his fault at making all that noise. This is where the other students come in, and this is where everybody's meeting with each other, getting to know each other, all that stuff. This is where Uraraka pretty much sees Deku again, and she pretty much goes to him and pretty much um thanks him for saving her life the last time, and pretty much thanking him, which Deku says, "Oh, it was no problem." And being uh, just being nonchalant, just saying, "Oh, it was no problem about it." Anyways, I need the points. Anyways, he's saying that, which she's saying, yeah. Now, this is where, of course, the teacher gets up because everybody's being all loud and shit, and he pretty much says, "Everybody keep it down. Why y'all so loud?" Which everybody freaks out and saying, "Who are you?" Which pretty much Deku says, "That's our teacher, our homeroom teacher." Which he says, "Sharp eye. What's your name, kid?" Well, he doesn't. He doesn't say what's your name. He pretty much says you got a sharp eye, Deku, or Mizuku Midori. Oh, you could say he calls him Deku. Pretty much, or Mizuku Midori, you could say. And pretty much, Deku is just saying, Yeah, he looks back out the window. This is where pretty much the teacher explains that they better put on their gym uniform because he's going to test out their quirk. And if they fail, they're gonna get kicked out. Well, they're gonna expel. Which pretty much one of them says they can't do that. Which of course that will lead to the event of him saying, "I already disqualified a whole class before," which everybody's freaking out, and everybody starts heading into the locker rooms. Now, pretty much in the boys' locker room, this is where Deku takes off his shirt, and Deku body is ripped. You could say he has a ripped body. Like I'm talking about, my man is perfectly ripped. Like he has the abs, he got the muscles. Like he could pretty much whoop someone's ass in a hand-to-hand combat if it comes to it. You could say, like Bakugou. But pretty much this is where Deku is pretty much putting on his uniform, and pretty much one of the students says, "Damn, you're ripped. What you be doing? What you be working out?" Which Deku just say, I regularly don't work out, but what I do, I just do some like push-ups and stuff. Which they say, wow, your body must be really good at gaining muscles then. Which Deku makes a little laugh, doing his, he still has his self, so he's laughing and doing all that. And Bakugo's getting more pissed off about it. But let's get to the testing. Now for the test, Deku passes every single last one of them, except for the bro. Well, yeah, except for the Baldo. Toga, I mean, Uraraka beats him in that in first because Deku can throw far out of space, but she can go infinite with it, so that's why she reads first about that. Now, this is where I'm just gonna have everybody pass because he sees potential in everybody, and plus Deku motivates everybody to wants to get stronger and better because of him. So yeah. Now, let's get to the I guess to the heroes versus villains arc thing, the rescue arc. Yeah, I think let's get to that arc. Now, this is where everybody's winning, and this is where All Might comes in and saying I am here, which everybody's freaking out, all that. Except for Deku, which Deku says, "Oh hey again. Oh hey again, All Might," which pretty much All Might says, "Ah, Deku, nice to meet you again," which pretty much this is where um the students ask, All Might? How'd you guys meet? Which pretty much Deku explains that they met in the alleyway, which he was getting attacked by such villain, and All Might came in to help him. Which he basically explains it, which they say, oh, okay. Which this is where All Might explains the whole test, is explaining that they will be two heroes and two villains, and they have to stop each other, and the thing. Now let's get to the outfits. Everybody outfits is all the same except for Deku. Deku outfit will be this outfit like this. It'll be like this, you could say. The whole crust cape. Yeah. And he will have like a familiar bat. You could say he will have a familiar bat that can transform into something else by his choosing. You could say. Now, this is where pretty much Deku is with Toga. Not Toga. Shit, my bad. Uraraka, sorry. This is where Deku is with Uraraka, and I'm sorry guys, I'm just but let's continue. Pretty much this is where Uraraka and Deku is with each other, and she pretty much asks, "Is this his hero costume?" Which Deku says, "Yeah, I think I like it." Which pretty much this is where they have to get the bomb, well, stop the bomb, you could say. This is where Deku talks to Uraraka and explains to her the plan. He pretty much says that he he will pretty much distract Bakugou while he will pretty much teleport her at the right specific spot to head to the bomb, but she has to do the rest, which she says okay. This is where Deku pretty much taps her in the shoulder and pretty much teleports her to the specific place. And this is where he heads in. This is where, as he's heading inside, this is where he already has the super hearing, so he can hear Bakugou coming in with massive explosions just to get to him. And he says, "Okay, let's see what you learn. Let's see what this new dog learned." Which pretty much this is where he's calling Bakugou a dog. This is where pretty much Bakugou comes in with explosions, and he pretty much blows the wall right beside Deku so he can get him, but it doesn't even hit Deku. Deku been dodged it. This is where Deku pretty much is saying, "Is that all you got, Kanshan?" Which pretty much um this is where Bakugou gets pissed off and says, "I'm Deku. I'm gonna kill you for what you basically did." Which this is where Deku says, "Oh, you're still mad about that embarrassing? I had to teach you a lesson about acting out." Which this is where Bakugou gets pissed off and he begins to start attacking Deku. Now, this is where Bakugou started creating explosions straight at Deku's face, which Deku is dodging with ease and stuff. This is where Deku goes pretty much goes for a kick. This is where Deku goes for a kick and pretty much Bakugou dodges it, but Deku also stops his kick and goes with and reverse it and pretty much kicks Bakugou in the head, pretty much getting the connect hit, sending Bakugou flying. Here's where Bakugou grabs his meaning and pretty much gets into a boxing stance and pretty much charges at Deku, and he begins to try, box with Deku. Which Deku, keep in mind, Deku has been biting a lot of people and stuff, and he has been also reading books and stuff about boxing and jutsu and stuff. Even him watching a video about someone teaching someone how to do a roadhouse kick and all that stuff, Deku can just remember it and keep it down. So Deku is pretty much just dodging, reading Bakugou's movements and stuff, and pretty much he grabs his arm and pretty much flip him over and have him hit to the ground. This is where Deku pretty much says, "Is that all you got, Kanshan? Because this is kind of getting boring." Which pretty much this is where Bakugou gets up and he pretty much puts his fist, well, aims his big grenade, that thing, and he releases it, creating a massive explosion to hit Deku, which almost about to stop until he's about to pretty much go there and stop Bakugou because he let out a big explosion at Deku, thinking that he killed Deku. This is where Deku is pretty much just standing there and saying, this is where pretty much Deku is just standing there and he's pretty much just drinking some of his favorite good blood wine, and he's pretty much saying, "Is that all you got?" Which he pretty much has. He made a seat appear there too. Well, no, he made the seat there out of the rubble, due to Bakugou making a mess. Which he's saying, "Is that all you got?" Which this is where Bakugou says, "What? How you not hurt?" Which pretty much this is where Deku says, "I got stronger." Which pretty much this is where Bakugou gets mad and saying, "You was just a nerd, a loser, with no quirk." Which this is where Deku gets pissed off, and he says, "What is a quirk?" This is where he pretty much gets pissed off and says his thing, saying, "What is a quirk? A, a selfish and greedy person who thinks they're special and unique just because they have a quirk that can do whatever they want and hurt anyone? People like you makes me sick. And I guess you're the perfect representation of a good quirk user." Which Bakugou gets cocky and says, "Yeah." Which this is where Deku gets pissed off and says, "Huh, okay. Then I guess you're gonna fight like them. I guess you will die like them." Which he says, "Come at thee." Which pretty much this is where he throws the glass and he begins to teleport. This is where Deku's in pissed off mode because Bakugo's saying that pretty much he's saying that quirks is anyone who has a quirk is pretty much useful, and people who don't have quirk is useless, and they just need to be losers and shit, and pretty much needs to be beneath. That you could say that, which this is what pissed off Deku. So this is where Deku pretty much teleports, and he pretty much shoots fireballs, lifts up his cape and shoots fireballs at Bakugou, which Bakugou is pretty much countering him with explosions and stuff, and dodging some of them. This is where pretty much Deku's hit is pretty much lifting up his cape again and releasing chaos balls, which chaos balls is pretty much those balls from Castlevania that you can't damage them and they can hit you if you don't dodge it, you pretty much fucking die. So yeah, he's pretty much releasing chaos balls, and the chaos balls is pretty much aiming at Bakugou. This is where Bakugou dodges one of them, well, dodges both of them, and this is where Deku also is releasing bats, such as electric bats that can shoot travel great speed and stuff, and Bakugou get hit by them. This is where Bakugou charges at Deku, creating explosions and stuff, and this is where they explode outside the building. And this is where Deku is just pretty much pissed off, which Bakugou charges at Deku with explosion and stuff. And this is where Deku is just dodging the explosion stuff. This is where Deku grabs Bakugou's arm and pretty much breaks one of them. Actually, not breaks it. Yeah, not breaks it, just dislocate it, which Bakugou can't use his explosion arm anymore. This is where also he grabs Bakugou and headsbutt him, and he pretty much headsbutts him again and throws him and pretty much pushes him and kicks him in the stomach, setting him flying. As Bakugo is trying to get up, this is where Deku appears right behind him and steps on his back and pretty much says, you know what's funny? I still don't have a quirk, and I'm whooping your ass. How embarrassing!" Which pretty much he's saying that to Bakugo. This is where Bakugo is pretty much saying, "Let go of me, you nerd," which pretty much this is where Deku is getting more pissed off. And he says, "You know what? I give you a fighting chance," which this is where he pretty much heals up Bakugo wounds and stuff to completely, and pretty much he gives Bakugo a power boost by the starfish, which it's a monster. If y'all played um, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, there's a Pacific monster that gives you like luck in, you know, attack boost, you could say. So, and it's the starfish with a prayer. So pretty much Deku gives pretty much Bakugo a prayer and gives him a boost in luck and attack speed. This is where he pretty much says, "I gave you a little bit of a boost in power and luck, so come at me." Which pretty much is where Bakugo is laughing, saying, "You should not have done that, nerd." And they start charging each other. Of course, the fight goes as the same thing. Deku's pretty much smacking the absolutely shit out of Bakugo and pretty much showing that no matter what you do or what I give you, i.e. gave you a power boost, I will still beat you silly, which that's what he pretty much did. This is where Deku's is pretty much is just standing there, which Bakugo is just like pretty much tired and on one knee, and he's just like holding his arm, kind of like the legendary Prince Vegeta move, hold his left arm when it's damaged. But pretty much he's saying, how can this be? Which Deku is pretty much saying, now you see the power in our differences. Do you still want to challenge me again? Which Bakugo begins to, gets pissed off and clenches his fist. This is where he's about to let out a final explosion until Deku is ready for it, until All Might comes in. It pretty much stops it because the round's already over. Because Uraraka already touched the bomb. So, yeah, the round's already over. This is where Deku starts walking away. And Bakugo's pissed off about it. And this is where he says, "Do you think this over, Deku? It's not." Which, this is where Deku looks at him and says, "If you want to fight me, you know where I'm at, Kanshan." Which, this is where, he goes off. Now, this is where All Might stops him Well, yeah, this is where All Might stops him and asks, "What is his quirk?" Because he can do all this abilities and stuff, which pretty much Deku says it's not a quirk, it's a power. I have power, and All Might says, "What kind of power do you have?" Which pretty much Deku says, "I can't tell you that, and if I did tell you, you'd just go insane." Because I'm gonna say, if he tells him about the chaos, um, I'm just gonna say the chaos has a curse thing, where if anyone learned about it, they begins to try to understand it and stuff, and goes insane. So Deku doesn't, tell anyone about it unless he wants them to go insane. But he pretty much just goes off. Now, pretty much, this is where Deku heads home, and we're just gonna have this into the 18 plus part. I mean 18S part. So this will be a sex scene. Very warning. If yeah, if you're a kid, if you're very young, I recommend not listening to this part and just skipping ahead. But if you're not, pretty much yeah, this is gonna be the 18S part. This is where Deku pretty much heads back to the castle, and this is where Deku is frustrated and stuff. And this is where um Deku is pretty much heads to his corridor, and he's uh pretty much just in his corridor, frustrated and stuff. And this is where Toga comes in, knocks on the door, and asks if he's alright. Which Deku just says, yeah, he just had a little bit frustrating day. This is where she pretty much talks to him and stuff, and all that stuff. Well, you could say talk to him and all that, which pretty much you don't. Well, yeah, you could say talk to him, and they start, talking to each other and all that stuff. This is where Toga pretty much wants to thank him again for let her stay here without having to pay for anything and stuff. Which Deku, says it's okay. It's perfectly fine. This is where she pretty much says that she likes him, which Deku is surprised by it, and he pretty much says that he has a liking to her too. And she pretty much leans in to go for a kiss, which Deku leans in for the kiss too, which this is where they get to interrupt it by one of the servants, which the maid says um, that food preparation will be done soon. Make sure to get prepared. Well, pretty much to let him know that the preparation of food will be done like at a certain time, which Deku says okay, and close the corner, which he says sorry about that, which pretty much she says okay, and they pretty much starts kissing. Now this is where the part where pretty much they go a little bit overboard with kissing, and they begin to start unclothing themselves. Now this is where Deku pretty much lays Toga to the bed, and they pretty much he's pretty much on top of her, and they begin to start kissing again. Now this is where Deku begins to suck on the titties, you could say, and it's getting pretty much hot in there. So this is where Deku is pretty much making out with her and stuff, and it's getting spicy. He's sucking on titty stuff, going to the neck and stuff, and they're having some sexual intercourse and stuff. He's sticking the nice good penis inside the vagina and stuff. He's going in and out. As that's happening, this is where he also is, still at the neck end. He pretty much bites her neck, which she doesn't, she doesn't like. I can't say she doesn't feel the pain. She really like feels pleasure, a little bit of pleasure in that. So this is where pretty much it's more like sexual. They're having sex at the same time Deku is draining blood and turning her into a vampire. Say now we're gonna say later that even this is where Deku is pretty much just pretty much out in the window, just looking out in the moon sky and relaxing, while she's pretty much waking up, and she pretty much appears and pretty much says that well, pretty much she says, well, that was some great sex, because I'm not gonna say she's a, well, she's gonna say that was her first time. She basically said that's her first time, which pretty much Deku looks and says it was my first time too, which pretty much they smile at each other. This is where Deku pretty much asks her out. Would you like to go to the movies? Like the next day, which she pretty much um, says yes to him, and you know they have a good time. Yeah, they're gonna have a good time at the movies to the next day. But pretty much, uh, let's switch to Deku. Well, yeah, pretty much. Let's just carry on to the next story. The next part of the scene, you could say. Pretty much, this is where Deku, the next day, is pretty much getting dressed and heading to the school, and he pretty much goes in church and tells everybody bye, including his new girlfriend bye at the same time, and he pretty much heads in church and goes. Now let's switch to Toga. This is the part where she's joining the villain association, the villain organization now, and she's pretty much uh new there, and all those the same events is happening where she meets Shigaraki. They have a fight, which the guy stops them. They're talking their plans and all that stuff, and Toga is pretty much there too. Now, this is where pretty much we switch. Yeah, this is pretty much we switch to the where are we at? Where we at? Yeah. Switch to the villain attack, you could say, and this is where Deku. This is where Deku is pretty much on the bus. Well, before they be on the bus, this is where the teacher said they're going to a trip to learn to teach them how to do rescue and stuff. And Deku, doing his own thing, looking out the window. This is where pretty much Deku heads on the bus, and he's pretty much quiet and stuff, and he's just looking out the window. This is where um one of the girls, we're just gonna say the girl with the acid quirk, pre the acid quirk pretty much comes and sits next to him, and she pretty much says, um, "So you're Deku, you're Mizuku, right?" Which pretty much Deku looks and says, "Yeah." And Yubi, which she pretty much says her name, and they get to know each other, and she pretty much saying that one of the girls here has a liking to you, well, has a crush. Well, some of the girls has a liking to you, which Deku looks and he pretty much sees some of the girls blushing or just like waving and stuff, which Deku pretty much says, "Huh, I'm honored. I'm honored, but I'm already taken." Which she says, "Oh, by who?" Which Deku says, "A man must never tell his lady without permission." Which pretty much she's saying, "Oh, fun." Which pretty much they get a good friendly relationship, with each other. Now, this is where they hop off the bus and stuff, and they head into the place, and the students are all in WoW and stuff. That each place has their own uniqueness, and this is where the teacher is explaining that this will train them how to handle each different situations and how to have it work in a perfect way. Now, this is the part where Shigaraki shows up in a bunch of, and he pretty much says welcome, and he sends out a bunch of villains and shit, and he teleports everybody except for Deku, because Deku has the power to cancel out anyone quirk, because over his travels he found a quirk user who can actually cancel out quirks without even looking at them or anything, just being by the presence. He can do that. So pretty much this is where the quirk, like the guy's quirk, doesn't work on Deku, and he's just pretty much at the entrance with Azawa, if I'm correct, and they start. This is where Azawa tells Deku to pretty much stay behind and pretty much all that while he fights the villains. This is where pretty much Deku tells Hidan to pretty much run and call for All Might for help, while he pretty much stays here, and he tells him to go, which he pretty much starts going. This is where Deku pretty much is fighting the villains and stuff, not even trying. And he pretty much put half of the villains in a hypnotized stage to make them fight for him. And this is where he pretty much says, "I'm not gonna fight this," which Deku is just pretty much just not gonna fight, and he just summons his minions, his three minions, which this is where he gives them a power boost and gives them human forms. Which this is the boomerang skeleton, um, blazing skeleton, and whip skeleton. And also he summons this and also summons the flying, well, not the flying skeleton. He also summons the I guess you could say bow skeleton, because there's like a lot of names. They're low key just called those names in Castlevania. I kid you not. I'm not just making up names. These are just names in Castlevania that I remembered. But let's continue. Pretty much he summons those guys, and they're pretty much, saying, "Did you summon us, Lord Deku?" Which Deku pretty much is pretty much sitting at the stairs and saying, "Yeah, please handle these, handle these villains for me. Don't kill them. Just knock them out. Just you know, take them out." Which pretty much they say, "Understood, sir." Which pretty much they start, going out and fighting villains and stuff. I mean, fighting the villains. They're using their techniques. The skeleton's using the slashing attack. The slashing to demobilize them. He puts some, paralyzing stuff on his blades to paralyze them. So he's paralyzing them, kicking them in the face, knocking them out. This is where the boomerang skeleton throwing his boomerangs, and they're pretty much hitting them, and it comes back to him. He's dodging their techniques and stuff, which he's pretty much, while the boomerang skeleton is saying such a drag. And this is where pretty much the whip skeleton, or yeah, the whip skeleton is pretty much throwing his whip, pretty much catching attacks and stuff, whipping them, and also just doing dodges and stuff and slides, doing a slide and stuff and all that crap. Now, as that's happening, we can switch to the bow skeleton. And the bow skeleton is pretty much shooting long range, shooting them in the leg and stuff, and just demobilizing them and all that stuff. He also has each different bows, so some can put you to sleep, while the other one can blind you. And he has one that shoots a boxing glove that hits you in the face. So yeah, pretty much. Um, because Deku says like this to go for the knockout, not kill or anything. Now, as that's happening, this is where Shigaraki brings in the Nomu, and Deku looks and he says, "Oh, what is that?" Which this is where one of the skeletons, pretty much the let's see, the boomerang skeleton says, "Don't worry, guys, I got this." Which he pretty much throws his boomerangs at the Nomu, which the Nomu pretty much catches them, and which he says, "Oh god," he says, "Oh shit," which pretty much Nomu throws the boomerangs back, pretty much hitting the boomerang skeleton, sending him flying into the wall, which he says, "Ah, that hurts," and he pretty much falls, pretty much like falls and catches himself, saying, "Ah, that hurts." Which this is where the blazing skeleton says, "Typical, typical boomerang skeleton. Never leave it to a blazing skeleton. Always have to leave it to the blazing skeleton." And he pretty much charges at the normal, pretty much slashing it with quick speed, doing some kicks and stuff, and also some jabs and backflip dodging Nobu's attack. This is where Nobu pretty much catches him and throws him by the side, which at the same time crushing him, and he throws him by the boomerang skeleton, which he hits the boomerang skeleton, and he says and this is where the boomerang skeleton says, "So about that, never leave a job to a blazing skeleton, huh?" Which pretty much this is where he says, "Shut up." This is where the whip skeleton goes in, and he pretty much blesses his whip with holy power, and he pretty much says, "It's time," which he pretty much charges in, whipping the Nomu, pretty much damaging the Nomu, but Nomu keeps healing. Which this is where he pretty much grabs, whips around the Nomu's leg, making the Nomu fall on his backside. He pretty much jumps and he goes with like a down kick with great speed, kicking in the Nomu chest, which pretty much Nomu has shock absorption, which pretty much the Nomu grabs the whip skeleton and throws him. And pretty much this is where the bow skeleton is shooting like unique bows, like viruses, like poison, poison paralyzing, like an arrow that can turn you to stone. And he pretty much shoots them together. And this is where Nomu is poisoned, but it doesn't look like it's phasing him. And this is where he shoots the stone one, the stone arrow, which it was pretty much turning the Nomu into stone, which pretty much the bow skeleton saying, "Yes, look like I'm the strongest." Which pretty much this is no where the Nomu breaks out of the stone, and it's pretty much just looking at the bow skeleton, which he said, "This is where the bow skeleton says, whoa, hey, hey, I was just doing my job to try to knock you out," which pretty much Nomu was about to go at him until Deku says, "All right, that's enough." Which Nomu pretty much looks at Deku, and this is where Deku walks very slowly, and this is where as the Nomu's walking slowly to him, this is where the Nomu's about to grab Deku until Deku pretty much with fast, quick speed rips off the Nomu's two arms, which the Nomu is looking, and before the Nomu can turn around, Deku pretty much grabs the head of the Nomu and rips it off, having blood splatter everywhere. Now, this is where Deku is pretty much saying, "Is this the creature you created?" Which Shigaraki says, "What? How did you?" Which this is where Deku appears right in front of him, and he's pretty much looking at Shigaraki with red eyes, saying, "I ask you again, was you the one who created this thing?" Which this is where Shigaraki has nothing to say, but this is where his servant's trying to teleport him out of there, which he can't because Deku cancel out his quirk. So this is where Deku like grabs Shigaraki and saying, "I ask you one more time, who do you work for?" You know what? Better yet, I got something for that. Which this is where Deku um, rips off the face hand off Shigaraki, and pretty much he looks into his eyes saying, "Tell me everything." Which pretty much this is where Shigaraki spill out the whole beans because he's under hypnosis, and he pretty much explains who's his master is and stuff. And this is where Deku pretty much says, "Huh, okay." And this is where he pretty much throws Shigaraki to the ground. This is where Shigaraki wakes up from this smash, like from the transmission of hypnotizing, and Deku pretty much says, "I got all I wanted," and pretty much Deku just lets them go because although he's trying to be a hero, he doesn't know to not like he doesn't know the concept of not to let like he does know, but he just doesn't care. He just wants to play around with them because he knows he can just find them anywhere, anytime. So pretty much they get out of there, and All Might comes in a little bit at the same time as usual in canon, but you know Deku already finished off the No Moon stuff, and um, this is where Deku calls in, talks to All Might, explaining why they came here to attack. They was basically came here to kill you, All Might, explaining that the No Moon was made specifically for you, All Might, and telling him that the person who also wanted you dead was this villain named All For One, which All Might saying, "My villain, I thought he was dead. I thought I killed him." And pretty much this is where All Might shows the wound on his thing to Deku, and pretty much explaining how did it happen and stuff, and it can't be fixable. This is where Deku looks at it and he says, "I think I can fix it, but it might hurt a lot." Which All Might says, "What do you mean?" Which this is where Deku sharpen his nails and stabs into All Might, which All Might can feel the pain, and it's like very painful, like painful as hell. And but the wound is healing. So this is where Deku reversed the wound back where before it got damaged, and this is where All Might falls down to the ground. This is where Deku explains to All Might to like make sure to just relax and let it heal up 100% completely, and you basically will be fine. Which All Might is shocked that he can actually do that, and Deku just says yeah, and Deku pretty much goes off. I should probably tell you, did Deku get All Might's power from doing that? Yes, he did. So Deku has All For One. No, One For All. Is it called One For All or All For One? No, One For All. Yeah, he got the One For All quirk. Well, power, you could say the quirk or the power of the success. It depends on how you want to say it. But yeah, he got his quirk. But pretty much Deku will just use it just to show off. But pretty much this is where Deku heads home. As Deku's heading home, this is where as he's heading back home, this is where Toga runs up to him. It pretty much goes to him and says, "Hey, welcome back home." Which Deku says is glad to be back home. This is where he also sees the little kids, and he pretty much pats them on the head and stuff. And they said, "Are we gonna play?" Which Deku says, "Yeah," and he has a smile, and they start going. This is part 2 of What If Deku Was Dracula from Castlevania. If you like, leave a like. Let's get this up to like 30 or 40, and I'll do another part. My name is Keyshawn Chia. Thanks for watching, and peace out.
It looks like you lost another one.